Welcome to this week's Back to the City. I'm really excited about this part two with both Casey and Nick from Porcupine. I think it's my fourth or fifth interview with Casey.
Yeah.
But it's part two of the interviews that relate to the new four-piece, the new Porcupine four-piece. To have a little bit of a recap of the previous interview, which was, I think, almost exactly 1 year ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was thinking that on the drive up. I'm like, it seems like it's been about a year.
Yeah, maybe like November, but pretty close.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very close. And at that point, you were releasing The Way Down, which is track 2 on the records that you have now just released. Something that I am really excited about with the new record, which is called Our Chemistry is a Tightrope, is that it's simultaneously a really coherent collection of songs, and you've worked with multiple producers and engineers on the record. So we have Brian Hanna, who you did The Way Down with.
Yep.
And you were talking about working with Brian in the previous interview.
Yeah.
But Brian is one of, I think, four different engineers.
Four different. Yeah, that's right.
So just before we dive into particular songs, how did that end up being the case?
I think Keith had brought up, we did Comatose and The Way Down with Brian, and I think, was it Keith that brought up maybe, that our drummer Keith brought up maybe using somebody that he knew had met back in the day, and that's Rich Rainey, who did the second. He did Famous Last Words and Character Flaws.
Opening track.
And I remember hearing the first pass at, I think Character Flaws was the first one I heard, and I was like, wow, okay.
It sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that becomes the opening track for a reason.
It's got some whomp to it. Right out of the gate, I was like, oh, he nailed it. So I think I was okay on the first pass. So, yeah, we used him for those two. And then...
Well, so then kind of schedules got into play here, and so he started getting busy. So he does a lot of work with U2, and I think a lot of little band over the pond. He does a lot of stuff, kind of mixing down their live concerts, and so he had this huge body of work that sort of had this slew of concerts to kind of pick stuff and start mixing. So basically said, hey, he loved working with us and the type of music and stuff, but he just couldn't do it time-wise. So then we pivoted to mixer number 3, who was Ethan Allen.
Yeah.
And so he did Snowed In Again and Heels.
Yeah.
And that was another Keith connection that he knew previous dealing. I'm not really sure exactly projects in the past or something like that. So. And then finally, Kevin Bowe on the last 2 tracks.
Yeah.
So, Good Luck Charm and Life in a Bubble.
Yeah.
So the last 2 tracks that you worked on, as well as the last 2 tracks on the record, was that the last session of the 4 sessions?
Yeah, for mixing. Yeah, it was kind of done like as songs were ready.
Yeah.
Couple at a time was kind of, I guess, how it kind of. I mean, Way Down was done, and then there was some time, and then Comatose, and then there was sort of like, as we were finishing recording, then we'd have a couple ready. And it was one of those things too, is where like Rich Rainey, he basically said, hey, I'll mix a song, and if you like it, you can pay me. If you don't, thanks for letting me mix a song. So it's kind of like a trial, it's not like we had, here's the batch and we're going to hand it over. So that kind of contributed to why we had multiple mixers as well. So it's kind of this time element of doing things kind of as tracking was wrapping up, then we'd have more songs ready. But the last 2, those were the last 2 that we worked on in terms of like recording and kind of
last 2 that you worked on and the 2 closing tracks to the record.
Yep.
And so when I first listened to the record, I was just listening to the record to enjoy a favorite band of mine, and not even to prepare for an interview, just to enjoy the new music from Porcupine. I certainly wouldn't have expected to discover, just from listening to the record and thinking it's got that nice coherent feel and it has a good flow, to discover that it was from these different sessions. And I particularly like that we get not only do we have the 2 Kevin Bowe songs right at the end, but immediately before then, the 2 Ethan Allen songs are coupled together there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's kind of begin with the second half of the record and those 2 sessions. I think, so there, your vocals are more prominent. Is that...
There's one song that's
Snowed In Again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did.
Yeah, you do the lead vocal.
Yep.
Yeah, on that song.
Yep.
So, do either of you have any thoughts to share about how the 4 songs that are on the second half of the record and that came about through those sessions or that you recorded with Ethan and then with Kevin? Any thoughts on how those songs evolved? Because they do. Now that I know that now we're visiting the Ethan part of the record, and now we're
Right.
visiting the Kevin part of the record. I'm
Yeah.
like, that does. No, I hear it. It's like we're visiting these different rooms.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, I can hear the sonic differences, but that's because I was right in the muck. Like, we went over the stuff sometimes a lot, but yeah, I mean, they all brought different elements. Like, Keith, I think, wanted to try some different drum sounds, and he felt Ethan was the guy for that. So, because when you're recording, you're trying to make everybody, you want everybody to be happy with how their stuff is sounding, and so I remember Heels. I was like, I wasn't sure about that song. I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. So I thought, well, Ethan Allen would be the guy to try to make that work.
Why was it that Ethan was a good fit for that particular
I
song?
think, well, Keith had a particular drum snare thing he wanted to get at, more of a modern snare sound, I think was his term, and I don't know what that is. I'm like in guitar vocal world. So, and plus I thought that song was tricky to me because it has this jangly guitar thing, and it's just kind of like very quirky, and the vocal line kind of is out there, and it was something that I thought, well, let's see what he does with it, and it turned out great,
It really did. Yeah.
But again, that was when I remember talking to probably you, Nick, going, God, I just don't know how that's going to work. If it's going to work, I was worried about it. Just how it would come across after it was done, if it would sound like it was moving right, because that's my big thing is how does this song move? Does it sound natural or does it sound contrived? Does that make sense?
It does.
And it came out really like, to me, it just sounds like a pop song.
Yeah,
Like
in part 1. You were talking about your love of British pop, the
Oh,
Kinks.
man. Yeah, and
then that's how we got on Ian McCulloch, and
Yes.
then the 2 Ians.
And that's kind of a Kinksy
Yes, exactly.
kind
That's
of
why I
thing.
bring it up.
Or I thought of, what would I say to you, Nick? XTC and the guys, Supergrass.
Supergrass. Yeah, I hear that.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, yeah. It's
just
there.
very prominent pop, kind of optimistic chorus in a verse that's a verse that's
cheeky, quirky, Supergrass-esque.
Yeah,
pop.
and then the verses are more, cynical and not as optimistic.
There is an interesting tightrope walk of optimism, and there's some bleakness, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which there would be if and as our chemistry is a tightrope. So I like that the title of the record draws attention to this the precariousness of some kind of interpersonal situation, and I think everyone can relate. Anyone who's had a friend or a relationship or been in a band or
any
chemistry is a
work
tightrope.
or a work
Or work,
dynamic,
the job.
yeah.
Had a colleague.
and in all transparency, some of the title is about the dynamic of us recording the record, because it was we didn't agree on everything. There was push and pull for sure.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that came from, because I think it was probably a mixed thing where we were like, I was just like, because I was just trying to get everything done. You know,
Yes.
I just wanted, because I wanted to get it done by summer, and it just wasn't going to happen. So then you got to kind of just digest that, accept it, and go, okay. Because again, it's for you want the record to be the best it can be. So maybe it wasn't meant to be released then. Let it go and finish it up. And I'm grateful that we did do that. But yeah, there were, right, Nick? I mean, honestly, there were some times where we were just like, "Ugh." But everybody deals with that when you're recording. It never goes, you know.
Yeah.
I've had great experiences, like the Albini thing was great
Carry
because
Away with Steve Albini.
yeah, I think because the timeline was really strict, and I'm like, I'll never get it done. And then we did it, and I was like,
A lot of the
got it
lyrics
done.
came just in time. Yeah.
just in time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So because that was in our first interview, that was
Yeah.
recent for you at the time.
but is that am I?
Yeah, and I
Correct?
think part of it too is like, so all of this is self-recorded, and so the mixers weren't involved with recording at all.
Yeah.
So we had, so Keith has a setup in his house, I have a setup in my house, Chad's got a setup in his house, and so we recorded that way, and so all the tracking was done, and so yeah, there's a layer of like, we didn't have a producer really saying, oh, well, you know, just sort of outsider view, kind of keeping
Yeah.
things rolling, and so then even that, like song-wise, arrangement-wise, there's like, you know, 4 people, 4 opinions, and we all want the best thing possible. And so then we get through tracking, and we're excited, and then mixing and the mix decisions, and you know, and somebody might have I might have an opinion about an instrument that's not mine, but I'm going to voice that because, you know, I've got a voice, and you know, and then so that
You're going to get on the tightrope.
yeah, and so it's
Yeah.
like, and so that everyone's got kind of different perspectives about, you know, how to reconcile, you know, if there are clashing, comments about like, oh, I think this should be louder. Well, I think this should be softer, or whatever. So it's not a simple process, and multi-layered for sure.
Yeah. Because you want to make sure everybody's happy. And then can I swear? Can I
can.
say? Then I have to be an asshole, and I have to say, I want it like this in the end, because I feel that I can say that.
Yes.
And it's never, you know, I just don't think anything's sacred. You know, even vocal stuff for me, nothing's sacred. Like Nick he'll change stuff up vocally if he thinks it's better for the song. If I don't like it, I'll just go, Nick, this or that. You know, we talk about it. It's all for the betterment of the song. And sometimes it doesn't go over so well. And that's just the way bands are.
Yeah. Well, that's an especially interesting part of the chemistry as a tightrope situation with Porcupine making the record. This is the new Porcupine.
Yeah.
Our starting point last time was that this 4-piece is Porcupine fully evolved into its maturity. Nick, you were saying that everyone, so for you, Keith, and Chad, like you come to the project knowing what Porcupine is and loving Porcupine. You've also played in bands before, and Casey had played bass and second vocals, in Chicane Theory. But in this instance, you're joining Porcupine. So, and you can bring new components, and that's what makes it be Porcupine in its fullest form, because you're bringing yourself, but you're bringing yourself into a particular context where Casey has been, the one consistent member, and of course, like primary songwriter. So it's interesting, having said that we do end up with this Snowed In Again, which is lyrics solely by Nick, and Nick on the lead vocals. And some of the interplay of the two vocals also in Good Luck Charm. I think one of my favorite moments on the record is Wandering Film Stars, Just Pretend You're Doing It All, Feeling Peculiar. Like the way in which the two vocals, the interplay between the two of them there.
Yeah, we did that on
great.
purpose because I just thought it'd be cool to have them, because he can sing really well, and so it's just easy because he'll go, how about this? That's great.
And it's something completely different from what you would think to do, which was something you were already talking about back in part one. Also back in part one, there was a thought that an EP would be on the horizon. So here we have with the 8 tracks, which is probably, although perhaps it was a bit later than you were thinking, 8 tracks is probably more than you were expecting.
Yeah, I really pushed for it because I think that was another. I think some of the other guys wanted just to put out like what do you think, a 4-song or 6-song or something. I said, no, let's do 8. Let's just use the 2 we have recorded. Put out like
a record.
Yeah,
Like
a plateful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's some debate about like, well, should we not include The Way Down because it's already out, or Comatose as well? So then, I don't know. Personally, I don't think there's any problem with fitting him in, but I see both ways. I mean, certainly.
I went back to the Porcupine Sensation record because Derry did Jump, and there's another track on there that had already been out on single, like released, and I was like, let's throw them all on.
Yeah, well, you want the songs that are in your set to be on a record.
Yeah. And Snowed In Again, Nick just that's like one of my favorite songs on there.
Yeah.
Because it came out as Nick and I would swap ideas back in the day, and Nick found an old idea and basically built it up and put a melody and lyrics on it. I'm like, this is great.
So like a kind of half-written, or like the genesis of what could
It was.
into a
I used
song from the
to have this BR8 recorder, and I would record stuff, and then I'd mix it on a cassette tape, and then I'd send it to Nick, who lived up here, because he could put it on a CD format for me, because I was too stupid to do it. And he'd go, here you go, goofball. And one of the ideas was just that music for that song, but in a different key. And then Nick was like, hey, you ever do anything with that idea? And if not, let's do something with it. So he took it and he changed keys, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically the main verse and chorus parts, like guitar-wise, more or less were there. Let's say, 85% there. But then I played it on baritone guitar. It's tuned down to B. It just felt like, oh, this could be a little darker that way. And it was one of those ideas that I remember hearing it like a decade ago or something, right on the tape.
Yeah.
And I like had this repeating melody that I'd keep coming back to, and that's kind of how the verse line went. I'm just like, okay, remember this. And so I just kind of stored that away. I'm like, how about this? And kind of went through some different iterations of, there's a little bit of a time, like it's not all 4/4. Like there's some time signature, slight changes, things like that. But yeah, that was one of those things too. And to be honest, like I brought in the arrangement and kind of the demo of the song with no intention of being the lead.
I was going to ask
on
that, whether you probably were not expecting to, like when you engage on the tightrope of making the record, you're not expecting to be the lead.
I wasn't really, and then I don't know. We just never talked about it, and it's like, okay, yeah.
Well, he's it makes sense it was like perfect with him singing it, and like the whole feel of it is great because it's slogging along, and the lyrical content matches everything that's going on musically. It's
great. Yeah, and your vocal is on there.
Yeah, I just sing in the harmony with him in the chorus, which is
Timelines End Us
fun.
All.
Huh?
Is that the lyric? Timelines
End Us All. Yep.
And that's such an interesting. So I love. That's like the earworm that sticks with me because the two voices are working so well together. But then I think it's such an interesting idea too, and I wonder how that is in conversation with some of the other themes and phrases throughout the record. It seems to relate in some way to the title of the record. And we start off with in character flaws, I'm cut at the knees at shows, I never fall with grace. And yet, as we are doing our tightrope walk and falling, it seems like the record is a testament to successfully making it across the tightrope. Maybe not fully gracefully, but making it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of impediments. So like in Good Luck Charm, a target follows me at all times. So there's a sense of precariousness. And I think that Timelines End Us All, not only does it sound really good with the two vocals, but it seems like an important lyric. What thoughts do you have about it?
Yeah, that, so Snowed In general is pretty dark lyrically, and it's kind of like supposed to invoke imagery of being kind of trapped in a situation, like, and physically, like, trapped. If you think about maybe one scenario, and I like people to interpret however they want, but one thing that I was thinking about is like this scene, like think of a movie scene where someone's like trapped in the middle of nowhere in a cabin, and it's like, okay, we have no power, whatever, and the Timelines End Us All is, I mean, it's kind of morbid, but it's like about mortality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then, yeah, I think at the time too, it's like this was kind of the second half of tunes that we're working on, and so probably subconsciously, it's like trying to push ahead and be like pushed to the end. So I guess those are some thoughts, and the lyrics were kind of just done one pass. I just like sat down.
That's the
and
best.
80% of them were there, and I kind of
like the Carrier Wave lyrics.
A lot of
all coming together.
But I just think it just turned out great. I think it turned out really, really well.
Yeah, I love that song. And then the two that Kevin both did the mixing on then.
Yeah, Left and Bubble and
Good Luck Charm.
Good Luck Charm.
Yeah, they have a really interesting character too, and the same like pop component. We just have the word life repeated at the beginning. I mean, just that one song has a particular character, I think.
Yeah,
Could you share a bit about that song?
So that, again, another idea that's from, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe, and I'd recorded and probably had Nick put it on a CD for me. And I think Davey, the original bass player he would ask me when I talked to him, hey, you ever do anything with that Bubble song? Because you always liked that idea. And I was like, I haven't yet, but I'll. And so I think I brought it to Nick and said, hey, what would you think about doing something with this where we could like just take that and add on top of it and then take away and, just something that's like repetitive.
It's like scaffolding and then take away what is
just strip it down, build it up, kind of like something like Bittersweet Symphony. Because it's just one thing, it's the same thing over and over again. But how could we make that interesting? So that was part of the quest, and then having everybody else kind of come in and add to it and come at it with a completely different perspective, because it's pretty much, whatever. Like, what if the drummer embellished that or played off of that or whatever? There's honestly some resistance with that, because somebody didn't feel it was a Porcupine song, which I think is ridiculous, but that's an opinion. So we made it. I just thought, let's make it kind of into a Barrett song, Sid Barrett, psychedelic '60s song.
Kind of started out as like, well, this could be almost like a segue track.
Yeah,
maybe.
we were thinking of having
just instrumental,
fade in, fade out kind of thing.
Because the original thing is like maybe a minute long, with like the trail of echo.
Yeah.
That thing at the end. So it's like it's using the original loop.
Yeah.
And then had to speed it up a little bit because the tape had actually made it so it was not in key. So I had to like put it back to where it was it was actually easier because the beats per minute. I was like, oh, well, it probably was at whatever it was, and I'm just like, okay, I'll do that, and then once I had like a 8-bar thing, and I was like, okay, here's the main loop.
The BPM was like the anchor,
right?
To get it back.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, this isn't the right. It can't be like whatever it was, 119.7 or whatever. It's like, this is right. So yeah, and taking that and going, oh, maybe we'll just have an instrumental kind of thing, and to Casey's point, like we'll layer in some new guitars, bass, drum, and just kind of have it a loop, and it's like, well, it evolved into more of a song, and so each of us does a verse or kind of a run at that, and And the Life in the Bubble part 2, I mean, that's kind of the chorus, if you will. And so it really did kind of take on a life of its own, no pun intended. Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. And for me, like that kind of stuff is super fun, like taking a sketch of something or a loop and going, well, how do we turn this into a song?
A fully fledged song.
Yeah. So I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it a lot. And it does, like a number of the songs, it demonstrates what Porcupine can be and is, therefore. That is an interesting tightrope walk, isn't it? To be like, well, we could transform in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
And then I suppose you have to make some choices, Casey. I imagine in the process you found yourself making choices. Well, how much do we want Porcupine to shift?
Yeah, I honestly don't ever think about that. I mean, I just think it's all the same band.
Right.
Like, if it's different, I don't want records just all sound like one song.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's what I think I've thought. I guess when I heard that, I was like, man, I listen to the past Porcupine releases. There's all sorts of stuff that is like kind of poppy and like there's no rules. I don't come into this band going, well, it's got to have this kind of guitar, and it's got to make sure it's got the bendy jazz master thing all the time. Like, that's cool. I love all that, but it doesn't mean that
there's
like,
a rule that needs to be on every single song.
Yeah, exactly. And I like to listen to bands that go all over the place.
Yeah.
But as soon as you hear something, you go, oh, that's them. Be the Beatles or, I don't know, Queens of the Stone Age, you know? Or I just, I don't really think about it. And, right? I mean, we kind of just have a riff and we go, oh, that's kind of cool. And if you're going to dissect everything, I don't know, that's not...
That gets in the way of evolving
Yeah,
into
I think
the
so
full
too.
form, doesn't it?
Like Bowie's evolved like 300 times, and each time you go, it's Bowie.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you hear that voice, you're like, it's Dave Bowie.
And I like with the sequencing of the record that, and the fact that we have, so the second track is a song that Porcupine fans already know from having been released prior, that we have more of, like, if there are sonic features like what you were just describing that people associate with Porcupine, we get those near the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it evolves in this way where it stays Porcupine, taking on this new form. It's exciting. I like that we go on this journey and we kind of experience Porcupine evolving as we listen to the record. And it takes us places that we weren't perhaps expecting to go, with Nick doing lead vocals, for example, and the different sonic features that we were talking about too. Let's focus on the first half of the record a bit.
Okay.
Do you agree with that kind of premise that it is that some of the defining, if there are defining components of Porcupine, we get those in some of the earlier tracks?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely probably have a guitar thing that people go, oh, that's a very Casey-ish thing. Like when I hear Nick play, I know it's Nick. Like when I hear Davey play bass, I can tell within seconds. You know, but I also like pop music, and I don't like rules. Like I don't think that you should go in recording going, well, it has to be like this. No, like that's why you're in a band, because you want. That's why Nick's. You know, I missed playing with Nick because the same reason I missed playing with Davey, because I could go, Nick, what do you think? And he'll be honest with me. That's cool. What if you did this?
Or how about if you do that and I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were talking last time about the tapestry of the two guitars.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah. That's very present on Character Flaws.
Yeah. Nick's doing the straight line, and then I kind of zigzag across.
Yep.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like.
Yep. And then the vocal melody is doing some of the zigzagging too. And so the three of those things together, the two, it's all a very intentional tapestry or dance or whatever metaphor, or tightrope walk, whatever metaphor we use.
Like television. You know, where the two guitars interplay, or Wire did that a lot. The Bunnymen. One of my
Your
faves. One of the faves.
Did Ian give a name to the guitar that you gifted him? Is it
Not
still
that
played?
I hope this. I'm seeing them in May. I hope to catch up with them when they're in town and ask him.
Yeah, you have to get
You
a
know, the last
question
time
and answer.
when I talked to him, he said, "Oh, I can't do his deep, growly, mumbly accent that is so cool." But he's just said that he has it in his studio room. He's like, I got it propped up on my chair so I can just reach over and grab it. That's all I needed to hear. I was like, I'm glad you like it. He just liked how it played because he had the pink telly from back in the day. And like he said, they've set it up. Somebody set it up for him. And I think they wrecked it. Like,
I
like,
was wondering when I was watching.
Never played again the same way. And I was like, well, here you go,
You just
sir.
noticed its absence.
I did.
And then working in this store.
I think he was baffled by that. Like, you know Pinky? I go,
Not only did you know, but you'd noticed that it wasn't in circulation. So you show up at a gig and give him a new one.
Yeah.
That you've created.
Yep. He
That
thought
you
that was
set up.
pretty crazy. But
So if this is confusing for the viewers to have to go back and watch part 1 to get the full story.
sorry, folks.
But as I was doing that to prepare for this, I was wondering what kinds of questions your son Ian was asking Ian.
Oh, he was asking him about what lyrics meant. Throwing the Crowns, he asked him about. I remember it was great because Ian McCulloch was like, wow, this guy, he
your son
did his
is
home.
how old?
Well, at that point, I think he was 16 or 17. He was asking him like these pretty deep questions.
Yeah.
And so Ian McCulloch would look at me and then look at my.
Who are these two? One of them
He's
shows
got
up
some
with
deep cuts. Deep cuts. Yeah. But he was just the best. He's a sweetheart. He's very funny.
And has your son Ian got his band together yet?
He's got one song recorded, and he's, I think, got a guitar player. It's a little tough in lacrosse because it's to get like-minded people. I can vouch for that. But he's working on it. He's got one song done, and then he started on his next one.
Because he guested with you right after the previous interview with Pocupine as a fifth member.
I think he wants to come up too when we play the popcorn.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no to him.
Not only does the title refer to navigating into personal drama, but I think that that's coming up as a constant, coherent focus in the lyrics. Character flaws, I've never seen, you'll be laughed right out. So that's a theme, like the idea of lapsing in some way, or the struggle of trying and not always succeeding at hitting the mark. And also, I was already saying, it seems like the record is a soundtrack for making it across the tightrope too.
Last year was a stressful year for me. A lot, like Mary passed away. Remember Mary? She was at she was at one of our interviews we did. She passed away from cancer a year ago, last year. So it was like I was just not in a good place. So where better to vent? Just play guitar and write stuff down. So, like, Famous Last Words is a Mary song. That's a lot about Mary. Sprinkled in and out, but so that's kind of a lot of where that stuff came from. And then just trying to get the band, we kind of had trying to start over and get some momentum, and because you're going from pre-COVID, post-COVID, band implodes, get a band together, some of it's working, some of it's not. I'm driving back and forth from lacrosse because I'm back there at this point. Tired a lot. I'm old.
I'm old too now. I didn't used to be old, but now I'm 40.
I'm feeling it. And then there's great things. I got great musicians. Nick and I are writing songs together, which I miss that.
Yeah.
You know? So I can't complain.
Absolutely.
I really can't complain. I still do, but
Well, the kind of why I was bringing up that being a theme in the lyrics is because I feel that I could imagine there being a different song called Character Flaws, which is more. Well, there could be one which is like finger pointing at other people that have
Yeah.
character flaws, and then there could be one which is more angry and unforgiving. But I don't think that song or this record is that. So there's a kind
No.
of being with, okay, things are not going perhaps exactly as I might plan, and there's a being with that, and there's a kind of compassion. Like there's compassion for oneself, and we feel compassion for the person that we imagine on the tightrope. Do you? Do you feel
for me
that's
it was a
the vibe
lot
of
of
the record?
setting boundaries with where you kind of realize, wow, I got to set boundaries in this situation because I'm getting swallowed up here, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But getting into the situation and going, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. Like, okay, I gotta save myself, not literally, but you know, self-care, because you're in a toxic situation, you need to step back, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then just trying to musically make it interesting and make it so it's not cryptic, but people can kind of grasp on to what you're talking about, like.
Yeah, the type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the line time slot misbehavior. That's literally somebody who, at one of my accounts, was stealing. And the thing is, you'd never even assume it. I might get her in trouble, but well, she got fired for it. But she was, what do they call it? It's time card theft. She was doing time card theft, where she would just like punch or punch in and then just be like sitting in her car or something like that for like hours.
Oh,
I was
right.
like, what do you do for hours in your car besides maybe sleep? But anyway, that's
Right.
what that line came from. I was like, I just think it's funny, time slot misbehavior. Because it's like, you're fired.
Yeah.
Pack your things.
Right.
But looking at her, she looked like a grandma. Like, so.
That's interesting. And I like that lyric because it does immediately, if you just give it a moment's thought, and one of my 4 jobs involves like swiping in with my.
Do you work 4 jobs?
I have, yeah.
Simon.
I'm the delivery
Sweet.
boy and main person working the register for one of the D'Amico and Sons. I have 2 jobs at the VFW, karaoke host and box
Jeez.
office manager, and then I do a fundraising job, and then I just do this for fun. And I have a family,
Cool.
and I'm trying to write a book. I have a new band.
Awesome.
the restaurant job, like I know
What
what
I'm
you mean,
referring
and
to?
exactly, yeah, and it makes me think of again the workplace being somewhere where chemistry is a tightrope, and I like that these sometimes quite abstract lyrics, but they are all rooted, I think, in being intentional about navigating these interpersonal situations. And I sense I'm not sure if I can tie it down to particular lyrics, but there is something about just the vibe of it all, where this awareness of like needing to be clear with oneself about what one's boundaries are to stand a chance of like making it across the tightrope.
Yeah.
That somehow I feel that like commitment somehow makes its way into the music in a weird way.
Yeah, I would say too that, like, maybe this is cliche, but still in sort of a post-COVID, like, I think, at least speaking for myself, a lot of folks, self-reflection, sort of reassessing things and going, okay, what's important, and then just, I think there's some of that sprinkled in to the lyrics too.
You nailed it.
So that's, but I mean, to your point, like, I like spacey lyrics, and so I like to sort of leave some up to interpretation, and honestly, some of the lyrics, I mean, I've never talked to Casey about, like, well, what did time slot misbehavior mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it sounded cool, and some of it too. I had a lot of fun, like, for some of the tunes, Casey would be like, here's my draft. What do you think? And I would just sort of read it cold and be like, well, change the flow of something, maybe change this word or whatever. And then Casey would be coming to record the next day. So it's like real kind of fresh. And I think that was cool and sort of intentional.
Again, that's why it's great having a songwriting partner because we just trust each other. So it's like I can throw him something personal. He's not going to go, really? You want to record that? But I mean, and another thing, I mean, with lyrics, nonsensical is kind of fun, but I need to have something there's truth to it, and a legitimate. And I always, when I think of that line, I always picture her face and me just going, I just don't get it. 'Cause she just seemed so innocent, but she was naughty.
She was naughty.
But yeah, plus I like to keep stuff not finished, so you kind of improvise a little bit.
Yes.
Like, what was the line in Heels? There's a middle bridge, and I just threw something on top of that. How's it feel on the top again? Or something like that. I remember that line, just throwing it in there. We were kind of, oh, that worked.
How's the view from the top of the...
We sort of try to figure out, does that sentence end or not? It's like, from the top of and I was like, you say like
really
top of the
don't.
world?
Yeah,
well, no,
I really
that
won't
seems, whatever. Yeah, so it's like this, I don't know, it's sort of having fun with words too, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it fits also with this, the Tightrope theme. Like, we're precariously, like, perching on the top of the whatever it is, and there's the risk of falling off, and then the sentence, like, falls off. It's quite artful, I think.
Yeah. Well, that title didn't come, I mean, Casey thought of the title after, I think, everything was done.
It was done,
All the lyrics were done, so.
And then it's your chance to hold this up. It matches your hoodie.
Yes. Don't get lost in it.
Very stylish.
Yeah.
Good color coordinated. But
that turned out really well.
But the reason why it's apt for you to be holding it is because you did the art design.
Yeah, the art. The center here is someone balancing
On a tightrope.
and then it's in a bubble. So it's kind of a
bubble, yeah,
little bit of a nod to life in the bubble. And then like this whole swirl is like, there were a couple iterations of art, right? And there was one with like a literal tightrope. I thought, well, this is a little bit more abstract and I don't know. I thought it was cool and simple.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a
Actually,
tightrope, and
just
then we do have the
aesthetically.
tightrope in the back. So
Oh yeah, fraying.
so yeah. Anyway,
How much time passed between Casey realizing that's what the title should be and then this design existing, or it sounds like you did a number of possible designs?
I think
You did 2 or 3. You didn't do
Yeah.
too many. It was pretty quick.
it's one of those things too that I think, as with music, at least I've gone down a trap of overanalyzing and being like, okay, it's a year later and I'm still like, is this song done? Right? So like sort of, go with your gut and make decisions. And I think this is, kind of one of those things too. It's like, okay, this is cool. Let's go. Let's go. So
But the person on the tightrope is in a bubble, but it also seems kind of like a spotlight.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Yep.
the pressure to perform well that character is under is fitting as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
Like people watching. And
I like
there's a
that.
sense
Yeah.
of like, I mean, I could quite publicly mess up here. This
Yeah.
just the spotlight feel kind of
Yeah.
evokes all
Yeah.
of that too.
Yep.
Yeah, well done, Nick.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So what is next for you guys? There always seems to be there's always a to be continued.
Yeah. I guess promote the record.
And so we have 2 shows coming up. So Minneapolis, Mortimer's on March 2nd. We're playing with Whippets, In Lieu, and Jumbos.
Oh, great! Yeah,
So
I love
that'll
all those
be
bands.
a really fun.
Gravy is in Jumbos.
Yep.
Gravy, who
Gotcha.
Brian does involved with
Undercurrent Minneapolis. Yeah.
and
Good peeps.
yeah, really really good. And I know he is a fan of Pocupine and was excited. I just actually remember seeing his post about playing that particular show.
It's cool to, like, you're an example, like, of a friend I befriended here, and then we've just stayed. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I love what you do, I respect what you do, and it's just cool to, so take that.
Oh, thank you, Gabe. Take that.
Mid-interview.
And gravy, and gravy too. Gravy
Yeah,
is-
and Doc, like, just like these people, you're just like, I'm just grateful to have them in my circle.
Yeah, it's the Minneapolis music scene is a really lovely ecosystem, isn't it? There's
is.
all kinds of big people too.
I miss that, because nothing on it. Lacrosse is great. I'm actually in Minnesota, but across the river, but because my family's there, my kid, and it's quiet, it's less expensive, but then musically, it's tough
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's the drawback.
I miss it.
So
But we're doing it,
Yeah.
making it happen.
Yeah, one of the things too is like when you're releasing an album, then you go into promotion mode, right? It's like, okay, we gotta send out stuff. Hopefully, cross our fingers for reviews. And I mean, to be honest, there's a groveling component to it, right? And you try and like ask for favors, and there's been a couple of times where like stuff just comes out of the blue. Like there was a review on the Racket MN.
Oh, yeah.
Person who we don't know
Yeah.
just reviewed character flaws,
Yes.
just out of the blue. And
Which is that's a breath of fresh air when
Yeah.
that happens, because
Yeah.
that's how one would hope it would be.
Right.
Like some art
Yeah.
that people know
Yep.
the band, and then someone enthusiastically discovers it and
Yeah.
draws attention to it.
Yeah, you're just grateful for that stuff because it's what I always call little wins. Little wins.
yeah, and it's sort of I don't know, poetic justice is the right word, probably not, but just, I guess, justice in some ways of like,
Yes.
I would like to think that it's the merits of the music that
Yes.
caught someone's ear, and it's not some incessant marketing machine.
Yes.
That you go,
Yeah.
fine,
Even if
okay,
it's
you
a-
have
even
a
if it's
million
a marketing-
Spotify
Yeah.
view or Spotify
It's-
listeners, so
yeah.
then I gotta review you or whatever. It's like, it's someone who actually cared about the music,
Yes,
which
it
is
touches
refreshing,
someone.
as you do, right?
Yeah.
So I think these kind of things
And this
they're
record
really
review
important.
obviously is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had something else that was kind of random, like when we submitted our songs for digital distribution. There's a guy who does that, and he came back and said, "This is really rare, but there's some people at the Orchard they're like a digital distribution company that they want some additional information because they're gonna like pitch to Spotify and other places like on your behalf, just for
Wow.
for
Just
whatever."
because they like the music.
Yeah, like the guy's like, you either have like
conversation we're having.
yeah, so it was very
Just
like
because they like the music.
yeah,
That's weird.
so like years of kind of slogging through like look at me, come on, just listen to it, like
Yes.
and stuff like this happens, and it's just like, oh man, this is cool. So it does give us a lift.
Absolutely. So you've got the Mortimer's show, and then there's another Minneapolis show coming up.
Actually, lacrosse.
Lacrosse, yeah.
okay.
That's with Cindy Lawson.
Oh,
and,
excellent. Yeah, who was recently on here.
Yeah, she's awesome. And then a band called Sib from Lacrosse, which is Toaster Ghost and Basement Family, kind of a
Amalgamation.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
What's the date of that one?
that's the 9th.
The
March
9th.
9th, yeah.
Okay, March 2nd at Mortimer's, and then March 9th in Lacrosse.
Moritz, you're there for free if you show up, of course.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
If I'm not working one
Yeah.
of my 4 jobs.
I didn't know that. Jeez, Simon.
Well, the 4 jobs is definitely also a post-COVID thing.
Yeah.
As I don't think it would have been necessary to have 4 jobs pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Some places.
Because you were gone you went back to Reading.
Yeah, I got stuck in
Yeah.
England because I didn't want to be the person that brought the Delta variant to Minneapolis,
Yeah.
which is my home. But I almost lost the ability to come back.
I remember that.
Yeah, 1 year out of the
They're
country as a
like-
permanent resident, then
Yeah.
you're no longer a permanent resident anymore. And I had to be assertive. Please let me
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah.
I had to be, yeah. Anyway, story for another time. Thank you very much for
Simon,
coming in
thank you,
again.
man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I really enjoyed that. Looking forward to next time. Fully Evolved Porcupine Part 3, Casey and Simon Part 7, or whatever it is.
Yeah. But hey, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
We appreciate it. So.
yeah. Thank you. And I'll see you at Mortimer's if I'm not working the door.
Okay, let us know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Back to the City. Here at Porcupine, I'm Simon Calder. I'll be back on MCN 6, 10 p.m. next Thursday. See you then.